All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Everything alongside my co-hosts and podcast members, Miss Shannon Brooks and Mr. Shemaine Melton. And this is the Morality Check. Today we will be talking all things moral and immoral that goes on in the world of planet Earth. And how's everybody feeling today? How you feeling, Shemaine, Miss Shannon? How y'all guys feeling?
Doing well. Can't complain.
Shemaine, you on mute, brother?
I'm doing fantastically well.
All right, all right. So let's see. Let's get started. So today, our conversation is let's see. What is the conversation for today, guys? I've overlooked it. Being honest with yourself.
Yes.
All right, so let's get right into it. So being honest with yourself in terms of everything, both professionally and personally. I think a lot of us deal with that because we don't want to admit our wrongs. We don't want to admit that we are where we are because of ourselves. A lot of times people want to blame others. So what are you guys' take on that? Miss Shannon, we'll start with you because always in my world, ladies first.
Okay. Well, for me personally, it's all about, being authentic, and it's all about accountability and responsibility. So my thing is I don't have a problem with checking myself, especially when I know that I have done something crazy or said something crazy. Cause I'm a firecracker at times. My mouth can get real slick. So sometimes I have to, step back and be like, did I have to say that, or did I have to do that, or whatever? And then I have to, trying to govern myself accordingly to move forward from there, whether it's apologizing to somebody or whatever the case may be. But I think for me, like I said, a lot of it is just accountability, responsibility, and, just being authentic. And whenever you're wrong or whatever, being able to admit that you're wrong and, making that wrong, right, and moving forward.
All right, my man Shemaine, what you got?
Well,
Shemaine, you're on mute. I think he may have some technical difficulties. Host, can you assist Shemaine with his mic right now? Say something for him, Shemaine. Nope, we're not getting anything.
I can unmute it, but I don't know why it goes on mute. Anyway, I hold myself 100% accountable for almost everything that I do. That's just the type of person that I am. I think it's a mindset thing. I've just always been one of those people. I'm very truthful and kind of like Miss Shannon. I'm a firecracker as well. I don't hold back. I don't reserve anything for anyone, no matter what position they are. So that's where I stand with that. So I love this topic. It's very awesome.
All right, all right. So, of course, we're talking about accountability, and that's a big thing as far as being honest with yourself is being able to hold yourself accountable. Let's dig into that a little bit deeper. Accountability is a term that a lot of people are not very familiar with. So, anybody want to elaborate on that in terms of definition?
Well, for me, my definition of it is holding, yourself, responsible, being responsible. If you walk in it and, you speak it or whatever, you need to be able to back it up, or what have you. So it's like, so if somebody says, Shannon, did you do this? Yeah, I said it, or yeah, I did it, or whatever. Or if I say I'm going to do something, then I, have to go ahead and I do it, because I'm old school. My word is my bond. So if I say, I'm going to meet you at 7 o'clock, you know for a fact you can hold me accountable for being there at 7 o'clock. So for me, accountability and responsibility kind of they go hand in hand. They overlap a lot, but that's what I view accountability as.
Gotcha, Shemaine.
All right, I can piggyback off of that as well. Holding yourself responsible. I'd have to say that everything in life you need to hold yourself accountable for. A lot of times people love to play the victim. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems that I see with people not holding themselves accountable. They love to play the victim for whatever reasons that they've gone through in life. And I can't do that. I taught myself at a young age to not go through that process of holding myself to a lower standard for no reason. I'm one of those people that if I do something, I mean it. If I did something wrong, I hold myself accountable enough that I can say I can accept the consequences and repercussions. And I think that a lot of people just have problems with that. That's why some of the fallacy comes through. People have arguments within each other because once you lie, you get to the point where you cannot turn away from that lie. You start to believe your own BS for no reason. And that's recipe for disaster for me.
Gotcha. And I think the biggest thing that you guys kind of touched on is playing the victim. A lot of people don't want to be honest with themselves. They just want to be the victim of everything they're going through. For instance, you may see somebody that's homeless on the streets and they say, oh, well, my family didn't want to take me in, or the job market, or things of that nature, which can be true. You know, all these things can have a play in it and can direct, I guess, change your direction in life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we have this master plan in our heads to where we know exactly where we want to be and how we want to get there. And some people say, well, I didn't get there because of I had kids. I didn't get there because I lost my job. I didn't get there because my girlfriend stole all my money and she ran away with my brother. Without, I mean, just some of the things that some of the people can come up with, you know, and we have to really sit back and say, well, did I see it coming? Did I see these things? Did I see, okay, maybe I didn't see me having a kid at this very early age, but did I see different ways of being able to be a father or mother and still be able to hold a career, hold a job, bring up my family the way I wanted to, and still get to that goal in life that I want to reach before all these different things happen. So how do you guys feel about that in terms of playing the victim and not reaching those goals based on different factors of life?
Well, I think for me, I'm really not big on, being around somebody that just constantly wants to play victim. That right there, that be real, just that shit pisses me off. Because I am one though that believes in extending grace and mercy, because we all fall short, period. None of us are perfect. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I have to look at myself. If I have a pity party, I'm only gonna give myself 24 hours. Because after that 24 hours is like, okay, I gotta get up and I gotta go make it do what it do. I ain't got time to be sitting around here, playing games or whatever. So now it's like I identified the problem. I sat there and I let the problem, punk me a little bit, but now I got to be in solution mode. So for me, you come around me, I'm going to extend you grace and mercy. But if you come back around me all the time, oh, woe is me, oh, I can't believe this, I can't deal with that. I don't even know how, because at this point, I'm getting ready to cuss you out. I'm like, look, you can just take your ass on. You can go to hell for all I care at this point. Don't collect $200. Don't pass go. Don't do none of that. Just go straight to hell, because you done got on my damn nerves. But a lot of times I feel like people need to, have that, like somebody light fire under their ass like that. Because to me, if you do that to them, they'll stop. But the thing is, a lot of times we allow it by sitting there just listening to it. Even if you ain't saying anything, even if you ain't paying them no attention, they still feel like, okay, at least I got an ear. I got somebody that's going to sit here and listen to my bullshit. Because after 2 or 3 days, at this point, you bullshit. And excuse my French, at this point, you on some nigga shit. I can't deal with you because now you wasting my time. That's just me.
Shemaine, what you got?
Yeah, and I have to agree with that. I want to grasp onto a point that you actually made. You know, a lot of times people seem like they want to play that particular victim all the time. And you said something very important by saying, I think you said something about their plans. They didn't plan on having things this way. They didn't plan on not being able to take care of their family or having this kid at a young age or all these different things, which is nothing wrong with that because of today's society. That's just the way it is. But I want to say something that it's very interesting for myself. It's very personal because I started at a young age and said I didn't want a family. And this is no disrespect to those that have families like that. But I just started at a young age and said, I'm going to hold myself accountable. I can't raise my children like I would love to. So I want to be responsible enough that I won't get in those situations where, you know, I'm having kids, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. But I waited a little bit longer than everybody else because of that same point. I wanted to make my life. I wanted to structure my life a certain way. I wanted business a certain way. I wanted to make money. I wanted to do all these different things. And people couldn't understand that concept where I was coming from. So I think that most people that don't have a plan seem to make up a plan, and that's that playing the victim because it's like a default for some people. Whereas to, like I said, if I held myself accountable like I did, I came up with a certain plan and said, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. And I've rode with that all my life.
All right, I totally agree with that, and I definitely see where you're coming from. But I think one of the biggest things that hit for me from what you said is what we say all the time with everything. Today's society versus back in the day when we was growing up. I think for me, and this is just for me, I don't think anything has changed. I think the only thing that has changed is people's mentalities, because the same things that we were dealing with when we were kids that our parents were dealing with, their parents are dealing with, and their parents before them were dealing with. But it's just different in the terms of the mentality, what you're willing to put up with, how much you're willing to do to make things better. What are you willing to do? You know, we got people who won't even accept construction jobs because they feel like I'm not working that hard to sustain life. Where there's people out there, and let's be honest, there are Mexican families who go out there and like, oh, amigo, I'll do it. I'll go out there and cut your grass. I'll pick up the trash. I'll do this. I'll clean your pool. I'll do all these different things. And you got some other families who are like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And it's the mentality to say, you know, oh, I don't have a job because of the economy, or I don't have a job because nobody's paying me the way I want to be paid. But there's jobs out there. There's just people that won't go out there and look for it. And I think the main thing is for us to look beyond of saying today's society, because today's society is no different than yesterday's society. The only thing that's different is the individuals in the society and their mentalities. I got a quick definition for being honest with yourself. And it's when you are honest with yourself, you accept your weaknesses and your flaws. That hits very strong because a lot of people don't feel as though their weaknesses, or they have any weaknesses or have any flaws, or if they notice that they do have these things, but they don't want to be honest with themselves and say, you know what, I know that I can't go out here and cut hair, but I can at least do this. You know, a lot of people don't want to say that they have this weakness or flaw to not be able to do something. But I think if you recognize your weaknesses and your flaws, you recognize your strengths. You know what I'm saying? Like when I first started cutting hair in a young age, I was cutting my brother's hair, and I was gapping their heads up. I was tearing it up. But I didn't stop because I was like, you know, I don't know what not because I didn't know what I was doing, but it's something that I wanted to be able to get strong in. You know what I mean? So I went out and I learned from other people, and I watched videos, and I learned from my own. And even something down to like my lady, she picks on me all the time, but even something as being able to tie my shoes with one hand. You know, a lot of people say, oh, why you learn how to do that? Well, it's simple. What if you break one of your hands and you live on your own? How do you sustain life? You can't sit back and say, well, nobody's willing to come help me. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to go to the store for me. No one wants to, they know that I'm going through all these different issues. I broke my hand because of this or that, and nobody wants to come and help me. why not? I'm the victim here. When you can actually learn how to be able to do things, learn what your flaw is, your weakness is, overcome it, be strong, come strong from it, and be able to ascend to a higher level. So, what do you guys want to piggyback on that?
Well, I think, like I said, I can only, just speak from, from my standpoint, as far as when you was mentioning weaknesses and flaws. I admit, mine all the time. Like, I'll tell anybody, like, I'm an open book. Whether you're dealing with me, if it's on a personal end or issue, whether you're dealing with me on business or whatever, you're gonna know exactly who Shannon B is. And I'll tell people, yes, I'm flawed. Yes, I got weaknesses. And I'll say, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. One of my weakness is how my temper is. I'm hot tempered. I can't help it. I can only deal with so much before, just like how that tea kettle on the stove, before it just blows. Most people, you may be able to count to 300. Me, I'm already, before you even get to one, two, positioning your mouth to say three, I'm already, then blew a gasket. But that's just who I am. But I also feel like when people see that you are willing to admit your flaws, willing to admit to say, hey, these are my weaknesses, and I'm not afraid to say it, because I'm that kind, like, I speak my truth, I walk in my truth, I stand in my truth. You're gonna know my strengths, you'll know my weaknesses. I think when people see that you are willing to just put yourself out there on Front Street, more people will rock with you then. More people will be willing to be around you, because now they feel like, hey, this person is very authentic. Because you got some people who, they put themselves on a pedestal, and then when they put themselves on a pedestal, who wants to be around somebody like that? No, everybody don't want to go around every day talking about what's wrong with them. But if somebody can come along and say, you know what, this is my issue, this is what I have, this is what's wrong with me, this is what I'm trying to work on, this is what I'm striving to be better in. Because see, I feel like this, if I tell you what my weakness is, my weakness may be your strength. So now we can work together. But you got to be able to be vulnerable and be able to come to the table and say, this is, where I'm flawed, this is where I'm, my weakest points are, or whatever. But I feel like when people try to cover that up and they try to act like everything is perfect in their world, everything is just like hunky dory and everything. For me, I don't want to be around nobody like that. Because I'm like, you sitting up in here, living up, in a plastic house or whatever. And, you over here, in a sense, trying to, make me feel like, or trying to make me believe that you are, living a dream or whatever. But your life is really a nightmare. So that's just me.
All right, Shemaine.
Yeah, so when you walk in total accountability, you start to realize your strengths are your weaknesses. Your weaknesses are your strengths. Not everybody is built that way, but once again, this is how I utilize what I learned in that path of life to understand that. So it's just like, perfect example, I have a huge heart. That's a weakness, but it's also a gift. People don't understand why they go through certain things or why they experience certain things. That's exactly why. So I can say that, my strength is the fact that I love hard, I care hard. I'll give my last to somebody that doesn't have, and then you wonder why you're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all week. You see what I'm saying? So that's a weakness of mine. Some people will say, you know what, I'm not giving nothing, and they stand on that, and that's fine. It's nothing wrong with that, but that's not their weakness, and that's definitely not their strength. So I think that once you start walking in that total accountability thing, you start to realize a lot of things about yourself, and you start to realize why you do certain things, why you stand on certain things. And if you can't accept those things, you're not going to move forward with whatever situation you're dealing with. And that comes to being truthful with people. That comes to building relationships with people. It comes to almost anything that we deal with in life. So certainly, I think for people to understand those two and the differences of the two and how they are similar is very a very important key point.
Gotcha. All great points. We also have a comment down in the bottom that says you spoke of people playing victim due to the fact of them not holding themselves accountable. How do you feel about people who play victim due to Fear of upsetting someone, fear of being alone, fear of standing up for themselves, or fear of failing. I'm gonna let you guys jump on there first, and I'll come in the back end.
Well, I think for me, um, it's kind of like, I guess, I could kind of see myself in that. And the reason I say that is I have to go back when I was younger. I was bullied a lot. And so because I was bullied, I didn't really know how to handle it. So a lot of times what bullies would do, they'll put fear in you. And but for me, I wasn't necessarily trying to go out and play victim. I was in a sense trying to just disappear, not kill myself, nothing like that, but just kind of just not be, like, if I came in the room, I'm in the back. I was very quiet, wherever I went, because I just didn't want to have to deal with the fear of somebody picking on me or saying something about me, or what have you. So I guess this kind of, looking at it from this standpoint or whatever, to me, it's like if it's something where a lot of fear is involved or whatever, I personally wouldn't necessarily look at a person saying that they're playing victim, because fear is real. It's really real. And a lot of times people don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to overcome it or what have you. So for me, I would say, in the, if it's fear that's that's causing it, it's like sometimes that's when you got to reach deep down in within your soul and know how to overcome that, know how to conquer that. Like me, how I came out of my situation, I just started going crazy. I mean, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come out this corner, I'm just gonna talk all the shit I can. You might beat my ass, but I remember I played flute in middle school. I had my flute case and I was like, I'm gonna beat y'all asses today. You got the right one today. So I had to come out and act the plum, damn fool. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, she crazy. We're gonna leave her ass alone. So that's how I overcame that fear, is just finally just saying I had enough. So I think a lot of times, once again, for me, when there's true fear there, it's like, to me, that's really not somebody playing a victim. They're really scared. They're really, something has got a hold of them. Something has got a, kind of like that thing where you got like you're in bondage or whatever. So for me, when I think of more so playing the victim, it's more like a woe is me. Like there's really no fear there. Whatever, you just want to just have a pity party, or whatever, and you just want somebody to feel sorry for you. But whenever you are dealing with fear, and I've dealt with that, that's, to me, is a different ball game. Just my 2 cents.
Shemaine, all you?
All right, yeah, fear of failure is very real. I think that's a very good question to the person that made that comment. Fear of failure is rough. That was one of the hardest things that I had to deal with, because I had set the bar so high in business, and then all of a sudden when it flops, you're like, damn, what do I do next? I didn't want to let people know I was struggling. I didn't want to let my vendors know that I didn't have enough money. I didn't want to let my mom know, okay, this is what I'm doing, but I need to do this else, this something else. It's just like, my business does what it does, and it pays for itself pretty much. But at the same time, when I started noticing the trends of the world getting the way it was, you know what I did? Decide I'm gonna get me a damn job. You see what I'm saying? And not everybody is built that way. And it's not that I was afraid to let people know I'm not actively running my business no more. I failed, or I lost money, or whatever way I dealt with it. I didn't go that route. I just said, you know what? I'm taking this extra job to make more money to put into this business to build it better for the foundation of everything that I'm trying to build. And it's a segue thing. Not everybody can segue, but at the same time, I think that's the most powerful thing that you can do is learn to adjust. And without failing, when you have fear of that actual failure, you're not going to be able to adjust because it's fake. So you're trying to concentrate on trying to make your lie right, or concentrate on how to make it look good. And at the same time, you're working against the ultimate goal of you succeeding instead of failing. So that's all I got to say on that end.
Awesome. And for far as me, I've always lived and stood on the hill of God has not given us the spirit of fear. And I've always stand by that. I have no fear of anything. It used to be I had a fear of myself and God. And the reason why I had a fear of myself, because I didn't know what I was capable of. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? It isn't about learning what I'm capable of. It's about being able to get to that level and ascending it every time I can. the hardest realities I had to face is not knowing how strong I really am. Because the stronger I get, the stronger I get. The more I want to see how much more I can, how further I can go. Um, so that's always been me. There's a lot of people out here who use the victim mode as a cover up for the fear. So they get into a point where they're so afraid of doing something different that they go in to a victim mode, to the woe is me's, to the, oh well, this happened because of this and this happened because of that. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but there are people out there who do go into these modes where they say, you know what, I'm so afraid, I'm so wrapped in fear that I don't want to try something new. I don't want to try something different. I don't want to fail. I don't want to lose money. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my family. I don't want to lose my husband or wife. I don't want to lose this business. I don't want to lose anything. I'm so wrapped in fear that I want to just blame everything else. I'm not going to be honest with myself and say, this is where it is because of something I lacked in doing, something I didn't know how to do, something I wasn't willing to learn how to do. I let somebody talk me out of it. I let my family get involved. I let different obstacles get in the way so bad that I just stopped running. I ran track in high school, and I ran the hurdles, and I also ran the 100 dash. So when I got on the 100 meter, it was like, all right, it's a straight way, it's a straight path. The only thing that's in my way is me. The only thing that can stop me from getting to the finish line is me. It's a straight path. There's no obstacles. There's no hurdles, no nothing. When I ran the hurdles, it was more so of I want to run as fast as I can to that line, but I got to watch how I step. I got to watch how many steps I take to get from one hurdle to the next. When you hit that hurdle, as soon as you hit that floor, as soon as you hit that ground running, it's 1, 2, hit. 1, 2, hit. And a lot of people didn't realize how to do those different things. And that's where they came in going so fast or not fast enough where they 1, 2, hit and they hit a hurdle. Then they stumble. And some of them never get back up. And that's what happens in life is when we're running, we're jumping on these obstacles and we're jumping these hurdles and we hit one or we clip one and it throws us off balance and we end up stumbling or we lose our train of thought. We lose money, we lose loved ones, we lose friends, family, whatever. And we get to a point where it's like, I don't want to get back up. I don't know if I can get back up because I failed. I've fallen over this hurdle and I don't know if the last hurdle is the same as the next hurdle. Because I see there's more hurdles that's going to be there before I get to this finish line. There's another wall in front of me that I need to climb over before I get to the end of this obstacle. And a lot of people get to that point and they're like, you know what? I can't go on. I don't want to go on. And I don't want to admit to myself that the reason why I'm not going on is because of me. Because I'm stopping myself. Because I am failing myself. No one's failing me. I'm failing myself. So you know what? I'm going to blame the fact that there's a hurdle here. Because I was told I was going to run 100 dash. I wasn't told that there was going to be hurdles. I wasn't told that there was going to be a wall that I needed to learn how to climb over. I wasn't told that I needed to climb to be able to walk through a tough puddle of sand and be able to make it on the other side and still continue to run. So a lot of people, they fall into the victim mode and they use it as just a cover up for their failures and not being honest with themselves and saying, look, I'm not getting to the finish line because I decided to stop running. Agree? Anybody or disagree?
I agree.
Let's see. We've been on for about 30 minutes and this is really good. How do you guys feeling about the conversation so far?
I mean, I'm with it. I think, a lot of us are hitting, good points, and I love hearing everybody else's perspective, on things or whatever. So I'm definitely enjoying it.
All right. And we got another comment down at the bottom say, in terms of being honest with yourself, are you not being honest with yourself if you believe the lie that you're telling yourself? Mm. There's a lot of people that can tell a really good lie, so good that they believe their own lie. So where do we go from there?
Well, for me, a belief is something that you've put into your mind that you have substantial facts on. But I will say this: you can tell yourself a lie all day long, but if you have nothing of substance to stand on, what are you really doing? I think that a lot of times people will try to tell a lie, and like I said, start to believe their own shit, so to speak. And that's the worst thing that you can do. Some people try to use it as motivation to get themselves hype or amp to surpass a certain goal or whatever way they want to look at it. But if you dealing in fallacy, fallacy is fallacy, so what are you doing? It's counterproductive to me, to hype yourself up to go through something and it's all a joke or it's all a lie. Why not use that same effort and energy into something positive and say, you know what, I don't have this right now, but I aspire to have it. you know um I'm not happy right now, but I will be happy. Use that energy creatively, to enjoy yourself and try to move forward with whatever you're going through in life.
Miss Shannon?
Um, well, I think for me, like I said, I can only speak for me. Because I know who I am, and I know how I am. It's like I don't even try to go out here and perpetrate myself to be anything else. So to be like that, say, oh, I mean, try to give an example. Everybody know that I cuss, and they know I like to cuss. So if I come out here all of a sudden, and then I come tell y'all that I done cussed out everybody, and I'm up here telling you all a lie or whatever, that I'm a preacher and I'm gonna get up on Sunday mornings and get up in the pulpit and ooh, hallelujah, won't he won't he do this and do that and everything else. Y'all gonna be like, that damn, Shannon ain't nothing but a damn liar. So my thing is that because how I am here is how I am across the board with everybody, period. So I don't know anything about saying like, I'm gonna go out here and or I'm gonna tell myself a lie and try to make myself believe it, because I feel like then at that point, that's a stronghold. And I'm like, so if I got to go out here, if I got to tell myself a lie to go out here and tell somebody else a lie, then now I got to go tell another lie, and then next, then I got to tell another lie, and then by that time I'm all confused because I'm like, I don't know who knows the truth and who knows the lie. So for me, I'm just gonna go out here and once again, like I said before, just be my authentic self. And what you see is what you get. That's just, how I get down over here. But now I wouldn't even know how to go out here and be like, oh, I'm over here cussing up a storm and then turn around and start singing a Mahalia Jackson song. Like I said, y'all just be like, this bitch crazy. Like she lied. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that even when you go out here and try to lie to yourself or whatever, then you try to tell somebody else a lie, it's always somebody that knew you. There's always somebody that knew you back then. It's always somebody that knows something about you. And so my thing is that if I know for a fact people know how I am, why am I going to try to be something totally different? I'd rather just somebody be like, you know what, Shannon, yeah, I know her crazy ass, compared to saying, yeah, I know Shannon, her lying ass. I don't need that, on me or whatever. So, like I said, I just be myself. Be myself. Either you like me, you do. If you don't, fuck you. I don't care, because I'm gonna be me. And I always say, what you eat don't make me shit. So therefore, if that's how I live my life, I ain't got no reason to lie. I ain't got no reason to go out here and tell a lie to myself. Damn sure ain't gonna tell no lie to nobody else. Cause I ain't got time to keep up with that. I already got enough shit going on in my head. Now to turn around and say I got to keep up with a lie, or facade, or somebody, or being something that I'm not, or being fake. I ain't got time for it. Nah, I can't even live like that, man.
Gotcha. I think for me, I think, and this comes in terms of like professional wrestling, right? We go out there and we portray a character for the fans to believe that we are this character. So in order for us to tell this lie that I'm Victor Andrews and I go around punching people in the face, and me and my son, we just do all these dastardly things. I have to believe the thing that I'm saying. I have to believe it in order for others to believe it. And I think there's a line where, in reality, there are people who want to have these, I don't know, this persona, like this facade out in public to where they look like something that they're not, to impress a woman or impress a man, or to impress a group of people, or to get a large following on social media and all these different things. A lot of people, they want to put up this facade, and what they do is they start a lie and then they build from it, but they have to build it to where they believe the lie, and they have the ability to, I guess, show evidence of some parts of the lie, not the entire thing, but some parts of it. Like, for instance, I could go out there and say I got a $1 million Lamborghini. I don't, but I can go on this one of these apps and rent one for a day and just pull up to a place where I told people that I have something like that, and they're like, "Oh wow, he really does have that." And then he kind of build from it. I could take a picture in front of the Biltmore and say, "Yeah, I own this mansion." And for someone who never seen the Biltmore, they're like, "Oh wow, he really has a really big mansion, like almost like a castle." So I think a lot of people, they build these lies so strongly, so that way, in order for others to believe it, they have to believe it themselves. And like you said, Ms. Shannon, you have to be able to be yourself. One of the key things is just being humble and realizing that you're not who you say you are. You're not. You're just you. You're just regular Joe Schmo from down the street, who goes to the corner store to get a ham and cheese sandwich from the deli. But you can be so much more if you actually apply yourself to being so much more. There's a movie, I think, Liar Liar, with Jim Carrey. I think he walked around and he lied so much that he believed his own lies, and he had others believing it so much that he was hit with a spell or something to where he couldn't lie. Everything was the truth. So I think, in terms of that, people, they have to be able to believe what they're saying in order for others to believe exactly what they're saying. We got one more comment here. It says, "How do you deal or cope with the feeling of, damn, I'm wrong when it hits?" It's not a good feeling, especially when it's not intentional, and a lot of people confuse it with "I didn't mean to." Okay. So how do you cope with the feeling of, damn, I'm wrong? And there's a lot of people who confuse things with "I didn't mean to." How do you guys feel about those?
Well, I think for me, I'm the type of person, when I'm wrong, I'm just wrong. And because how I live my life is that, I don't want to, be the one that, say, okay, I know I went out here and I wronged somebody and I didn't apologize and I leave this world, or they leave this world, whatever. I always think of it as far as, being in depth like that. So when I'm wrong, I don't have a problem saying, look, I was wrong and I'm sorry, or whatever. And it's in, and when I say it, I mean it, or whatever. So I mean, and I feel like I when I get it off of me, and I say, hey, look, I'm sorry, and now the person doesn't accept it, that's fine, but I know I can't function throughout the whole day knowing that I did something wrong to somebody. Like, I don't make no excuses. Like, if I was wrong and somebody say, Shannon, you was wrong, I'm like, you know what, you're right, I was wrong, and let me humbly come to you and apologize. Now, if they don't accept it, that's fine, but I got it off of me. It's not on my conscience or anything like that. So that's how I do it. Just go ahead and get it out the way, mean it, and move on.
Well, for me, it depends on if your intentions were good. If your intentions were good, and then you later on realize that, what, I was in the wrong. If you hold yourself accountable by that situation, you should be man or woman enough to go to that person and say, you know what, I thought I was right, but you know what, you made a good point, and I think that you got better judgment on this situation. That's the part about being an adult. I think that when we're young, we don't have that segue. We don't have a way to talk to somebody a certain way. And that also goes back to the point of people not being able to converse with each other. If you get to the point where you realize that something is right, and you had thought it was wrong all along, that's an assumption. That's okay. It's okay, because not everybody's going to always be right. And I think that some people have a problem with actually being wrong. Me, I'm wrong all the damn time. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm a supervisor at the position that I'm doing right now. And the reason why I'm okay with that, because I'll tell my workers, I'm like, yo, you know what? My bad, man. I didn't think like y'all do. Y'all been doing this longer than me, but I'm in position to tell you how to do things. I was wrong. Do it your way. You see what I'm saying? That's me bowing down and saying, you know what? You're better at this than I am. I don't have to be the alpha in that situation, and I'm okay with that. Whereas when I was younger, I started thinking, you know what? I'm an alpha male. I used to always say that I'm an alpha. I command respect. I do all these different things. And when you're put in a position, you start thinking like that too. But I had to learn over the years that I can't be that way. I have to accept that sometimes someone else's, somebody else's situation might be learned differently than me. And so that's the beautiful thing about, growing older. You start to learn these things, and you can apply it to your real life.
All right, and I think for me, the best way to cope with the feeling of damn, I'm wrong, is to overcome that fear. I think the main thing in this comment right here is fear. A lot of times, like especially like in a relationship, someone will do something that they didn't intentionally do or intentionally have done, and they don't realize they did it until it's too late. And that's where the damn I'm wrong situation comes in. No one wants to admit that they did something to cause something. And they immediately say, well, I didn't do it. I didn't do it like that. I didn't say it like that. And when you actually explain it to them and you repeat it to them and you tell them, look, this is exactly what you did, or this is exactly what you said. And then they say, well, I didn't mean to. That's how that comes into play. That's how that timeline happens. It's when someone does something and then they immediately say, well, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. And then you explain it to them and you replay everything that happened. And then they say, well, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean it like that. You know me like this, or you know me like that, or you know me better than this, or whatever. And like, I didn't mean it like that. This is what I meant. And they still come back and say the same thing that they said before. There is no change. And so they don't want to admit the wrong in it because the fear of losing. They don't want to lose the argument. They don't want to lose the person that they're with. They don't want to lose that leverage of saying that I'm better than you or I'm right in the situation. And when everything falls apart and they have that moment to sit down and realize what's happening, like what they have now, like their foundation is broken down, the relationship is no longer there, that business relationship is no longer there. You no longer have the house that you always wanted and everything like that. They sit back and like, damn, I'm wrong. That's when that hits. And the best way to cope or deal with that is to realize the realization of you were wrong, the humbleness to be able to go back and admit to the individual or the thing that you were wrong to admit to them and say, you know what, I was wrong. And you the individual deserve better, or I could have did this better, or I could have did this differently. And to overcome that fear of thinking that every time that you in a sense realize that you were the one that was doing the wrong, you're not always going to lose. You gain more by admitting you're wrong rather than losing. Most times. Sometimes there's people that was like, you know what? It's one shot, one kill. You done messed up. I'm out. But most times, if you are willing to sit back and be like, you know what, let me think about that for a second. You're right. I was wrong in that situation, and I apologize. I didn't mean it that way. I can see how it came across. I can see where I was wrong in that. And so where do we go from here? How do we fix that? How do we overcome this? Because the fear of losing you is what's driving me to not admit that I was wrong. We got one last common question. How do each of you, all of us, feel about private alone time or for reflection? And what are some important questions you ask yourself during this time? I'm going to start with Ms. Shannon B.
Let's see. I love private and alone time because two things. I'm an only child and I am the world's biggest introvert. I really don't like people. Like I don't like going out in the public because the public is there. So I'm always by myself. I work from home. Um, my husband, he works during the day. My son's in college. So I love being by myself. And I love being by myself because that's my solitude. And what I'm always doing is asking myself, what can I do to be better? If what can I do to work on, me? What can I do to be a better mom, to be a better wife, to be a better business owner? I'm always reflecting on, myself. I'm always reflecting on, decisions. I'm always reflecting on, ideas that I have or whatever. So for me to be by myself is perfect. I love I don't like a pandemic in the sense of how everybody had to be kind of like secluded or whatever, but the being alone and being in the house all the time was perfect for me. I know other people just it drove them crazy, but this is my solitude. This is my happy place, is being by myself. And like I said, a lot of times the questions is just, what can I do better? How can I be better? How can I go back and make that better? What can I do? If I'm dealing with a client, how can I go back to make sure that they feel like, what, I know what I'm talking about and I'm doing the best thing for them? My husband, if he, needs somebody to talk to, let me make sure I'm being the best wife. If my son calls me from college and he needs somebody to talk to, or he needs something, what can I do to be a better mom? So I'm always, my mind's always going that way. So, but that's just me.
All right, over to
Yeah,
you, Shemaine.
yeah. Self-reflection is a positive thing. When you start having self-reflection, you have the time that and the energy to go ahead and look at some of the things that you're doing right in your life, some of the things that you're doing wrong in your life. And it's nothing like being by yourself to smell your own shit, so to speak. And if you going through something and you're not doing right, it's like I gotta hype myself up now. You better than that. See, you know, you've done this or you can do this. You need to not be around that person. This person's soaking up too much of your energy. This person's soaking up too much of your funds. This person right here is just toxic for you. So if you've got all those people pulling at you at all times, at some point in time, it's time to reel it back in and say, you know what, this is me. The ultimate goal is me. And I know, of course, family, that's also a part of you. So, you can only give your family as much as you have. And if you are empty, what can you give? Nothing. So I think that sometimes when you get yourself alone, it's almost the best time to recalibrate. Some of the questions that I ask myself is, um, do I deserve this? I'm one of those people that I'll answer my own questions. I'll ask myself, do I deserve this? Nah, I don't deserve this. I'm my most harsh critic. I make myself suffer today for tomorrow's greatness is my thing. So I will eat peanut butter and jelly, all week long in lieu of me knowing that, okay, I got a couple days till paycheck and then I'm going to make this investment and make it work. Or I want to take this young lady out this weekend and I know I'm going to need some extra dollars. You see what I'm saying? And those are things that you have to realize that is the best thing for you because you thought of it. It's 100% genuine and it's for you. So, kudos to anyone that does self-reflection. If you don't, guys, I suggest do it, get used to it and enjoy it. You are your most harsh critic and you are the person that matters the most at the end of the day.
All right, thank you, Shemaine. And my last comment about this is it's all about strength. When you're having that private alone time and your time of reflection, it's all about the strength. Um, One of the biggest quotes, and I'm not a religious person, but I can get spiritual sometimes, is idle mind is a devil's playground. So there's a lot of people who sit alone with themselves and start thinking about things or reflecting and not even realize that they were still in the wrong of some things, or they're where they're at because of things or choices that they made. It isn't nobody else's fault but them their own. And that's where the you get all these thoughts in your head like, oh, it was this person's fault. And when I speak to them, I'm going to curse them out and tell them how I feel about the fact that they didn't give me $1 when I wanted to go to the store and get a beer and have a drink because I had a long day of arguing with some people that was down the street as I was getting on the bus. That ain't nobody else's fault but your own. You put yourself in that predicament. You put yourself in a situation where you can't afford $1 to go to the store to get a beer. So it's a lot of self-reflection is all about the strength of the individual to understand where they're at, understand that sometimes they're at where they are because of themselves and nobody else. And mostly the only person that can get them out of that hole is them, nobody else. And that's just it. I do a lot of self-reflecting. A lot of times I travel every weekend. I do professional wrestling. So when I'm on that road and it's just me, sometimes I'll turn the music off and I just sit there and just listen to the wind blow, or I listen to the horns honk on the street, or I just listen to angel radio and see what the angels are talking about, or up in heaven, or and sometimes I'm one of those people who likes to know what the enemy is doing, so I understand exactly what their moves are. So I even listen to some of the demons out there and see what they're telling me in my head, so that way I know what I need to overcome and what I need to prepare myself for. Self-reflection is very major in that terms, and it's very good for your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health, as well as your spiritual health. So if you want to self-reflect, my advice to a lot of people: when you self-reflect, make sure you open your ears to all types of things, so that way you know exactly what to prepare for, how to prepare for it, and know where to get to in your next step. Um, Man, this was a great conversation. Very intuitive. Everybody has some really good feedback and advice. Miss Shannon B, you got anything you want to, your last comments? You got anything coming up? You anything you want to promote?
No, not really. Just doing my thing. On the grind all the time, trying to avoid hell and jail. They got two places. Like Cube said, today was a good day.
Absolutely. Let's avoid hell and jail. I like that. My man Shemaine, what you got? You want to promote anything?
Wow, man, I'm a big promoter of everything. I want to promote anybody that is an entrepreneur today. I think it's very important for us to look at the ones that have the creative minds to build something out of nothing. I think that is an awesome skill set that people overlook. And so it's not necessarily about my promotion, but everybody else. Find an entrepreneur, man, and go see what they're about. You never know. You may find somebody that you can do business with that is phenomenal. That's how my business grew, and so I suggested everybody try that.
All right, all right. And I'm definitely going to pull up on both of y'all because I want to learn a couple of things here and there, so that way I can get to a point where I don't have to sit and work and build somebody else's business. I want to build my own. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Morality Check. And just be honest with yourself. In order to get better, you got to be honest with yourself. And that is your morality check. Peace.
All right, peace.
Good night.